There's a moment in every soul's journey when the noise of the world becomes too heavy to bear. It's that instant when every sound feels loud, every opinion feels invasive, and every demand from the outside world starts pulling you away from yourself. That's when life whispers, "Be still." It's not an order, it's a sacred invitation, a call back home. The truth is, we live surrounded by noise, not just the sounds of traffic or notifications, but the constant noise of thoughts, fears, comparisons, and expectations. It's the noise that says you're not enough yet, the noise that keeps you chasing validation instead of peace, the noise that silences the voice of your own soul. But there's a paradox in the journey of awakening. Only when everything outside becomes too loud, you start seeking what's quiet inside. And that's where transformation truly begins, because silence isn't emptiness. Silence is the birthplace of your energy awakening. It's the sacred ground where your divine power starts to rise again. When you allow yourself to enter this sacred space, even for a few minutes a day, you begin to reconnect with your true vibration. In the quiet, you stop reacting and start remembering. Remembering who you are, remembering why you came here. Remembering that your worth has never depended on how much you do, but on how much light you carry. The mind fears silence because it cannot control it. The ego fears silence because in silence it disappears. But the soul celebrates silence because that's where she finally gets to speak. And her language is not made of words, but of energy, intuition, and truth. Many people confuse silence with loneliness, but the two couldn't be more different. Loneliness is the absence of others. Silence is the presence of yourself. In loneliness, you feel empty. In silence, you feel whole. That's why silence is not a void to escape from. It's a temple to enter. The world teaches us to speak louder, to act faster, to always be doing. But the universe operates in stillness. Every great transformation in nature happens quietly. A seed doesn't make noise when it breaks open to become a tree. The dawn doesn't shout when it conquers the night. And your soul doesn't scream when it's awakening. It whispers. Those who learn to listen to that whisper discover a power that no book, no course, no external teacher could ever give. The power of sacred silence. Because silence aligns your frequency with the divine flow. It heals your nervous system. It clears your energetic field. It turns confusion into clarity and exhaustion into creation. Think about it. How many times have you made a bad decision because you acted from noise instead of intuition? How many times have you ignored your inner voice because you were too distracted by opinions, fears, and comparisons? That's what sacred silence heals. It's not about stopping your thoughts. It's about not being ruled by them. It's about becoming so aware that you can hear the guidance beneath the chaos. In a world that glorifies constant stimulation, choosing silence is an act of rebellion, a spiritual revolution. It's saying, I refuse to let the outside world define my inner state. And that's where your true energy transformation begins. Because silence is not passive, it's the most powerful action you can take for your spiritual growth. Every time you sit in silence, even if your mind is restless, even if your heart is heavy, you're training your energy to return to peace. You're remembering your natural vibration. You're becoming magnetic to clarity, abundance, and manifestation. Because the law of attraction doesn't respond to noise, it responds to alignment. And alignment is born in silence. You see, the reason many people feel stuck, lost, or disconnected is not because life has stopped moving. It's because they've stopped listening. Listening to their intuition, listening to the signs, listening to the quiet direction that life is always offering. When you reconnect to silence, you reconnect to divine guidance, and that's when synchronicities begin to unfold like miracles. The universe doesn't shout its messages. It whispers them through feelings, through sensations, through coincidences that aren't coincidences at all. And when your inner world becomes still, you start to hear those messages clearly. You start to realize that nothing was random. Every delay, every detour, every heartbreak was simply leading you back to yourself. So if you've been feeling lost, drained, or disconnected from your purpose, maybe it's not more action you need, but more silence. Because in the sacred pause, the soul rearranges everything. In the stillness, clarity rises like sunlight after the storm, and suddenly, what once felt confusing begins to make perfect sense. This is not about isolation. It's about integration. It's about creating enough space between you and the world so your soul can breathe again. When you honor silence, you open the door to inner peace, energy healing, and true self-discovery. So today, give yourself permission to stop chasing and start listening. Turn down the volume of the world. Disconnect from the noise, even if just for a few sacred minutes. Because the greatest manifestation tool you'll ever have is not outside of you. It's the silence within you. The mind will resist, the ego will complain, but the soul will rise. And when it does, you'll realize that silence was never empty. It was full of answers, waiting for you to be ready. If the soul whispers, the mind screams. And most people spend their whole lives listening only to that scream. It tells you to rush, to compete, to prove yourself, to always be doing something, anything, just to avoid the quiet truth that waits underneath. The mind is a wonderful tool, but a terrible master. It was created to serve you, not to imprison you. Yet somewhere along the journey, we gave it too much power. We started believing that every thought was real, every fear was truth, every doubt was warning. And that's when the spiritual noise began. We wake up, and the first thing the mind says is, "You're late. You didn't do enough. You need to fix this. You should be better by now." And without realizing, you start your day already carrying a frequency of stress and lack. You move through life reacting instead of creating. That's what it means to forget the soul. Not because the soul goes anywhere, but because the mind becomes so loud that you can no longer hear her. The mind speaks in fear. The soul speaks in peace. The mind demands logic. The soul moves through intuition. The mind shouts, "What if it goes wrong?" The soul whispers, "Trust the process." This internal conflict is what drains your life force energy. You can be eating well, meditating, working hard, but if your inner world is filled with mental noise, your energy field becomes fragmented. You start to feel tired without reason, anxious without cause, lost without direction. Because the noise of the mind disconnects you from your energetic source. We live in an age where silence feels uncomfortable and overthinking feels normal. We scroll endlessly, not because we want more information, but because we're afraid of meeting ourselves in the quiet. We fill every second with something external because we forgot how to simply be. That's how the mind distracts you. It keeps you busy, so you never have to confront what's broken. But here's the truth. No one can heal what they keep running from. And silence exposes what distraction hides. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also where the miracle begins. When you face your own noise, you reclaim your energy. You start seeing your patterns, why you sabotage opportunities, why you fear success as much as failure, why you attract the same type of people or situations again and again. Because the mind loves repetition, it calls it safety, but the soul craves expansion, it calls it growth. Every thought you think carries a frequency. A fearful thought contracts your energy, a grateful thought expands it, an anxious thought lowers your vibration, a loving thought restores it. So when the mind is filled with constant noise, worry, comparison, doubt, your energetic field vibrates in chaos. That's why energy healing starts not with crystals or rituals, but with awareness. Awareness is the silence between two thoughts. It's that small, sacred space where you observe the mind without becoming it. And the more you expand that space, the freer you become. Because freedom doesn't mean having no thoughts. It means no longer being controlled by them. Imagine your mind as an ocean. The waves on the surface are loud, restless, unpredictable. That's your mental noise. But deep beneath the surface, the water is still and clear, and that's your soul. Most people live on the surface, tossed around by every wave. But spiritual awakening is the decision to dive deeper, to find that stillness beneath the storm. And once you experience that inner depth, something extraordinary happens. You stop identifying with your pain. You stop believing that you are your thoughts. You start to realize you are the one who observes them. That simple shift is the beginning of conscious transformation. Because every problem in your outer world is a reflection of your inner noise. Clean the noise and clarity returns. Calm the noise and intuition rises. Heal the noise and manifestation flows. You don't need to fix your mind. You just need to retrain it to serve your soul again. That's where practices like mindfulness, journaling, and breath awareness help. Not as trends, but as tools to restore balance between the thinker and the observer. Think of your mind as a loyal but scared guardian. It was programmed to protect you, not to free you. So when you decide to change, it panics. It says, what if it doesn't work? What if you fail? But the soul answers, what if it does? What if this time you finally fly? That's why healing requires compassion, not control. You can't fight the mind into silence. You must love it into peace. You must become the gentle witness who says, thank you for trying to protect me, but I choose a new voice now. And slowly, the noise softens. The constant self-criticism fades. The inner pressure lightens. Because when you stop arguing with your thoughts, they lose their power. Here's a truth that changes everything. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. You are not the voice of fear. You are the awareness listening to it. You are not your overthinking. You are the consciousness beneath it, infinite and calm. When you live from that awareness, every challenge becomes information, not condemnation. You start to see what your fear is trying to teach. You start to notice that every trigger is just an unhealed part of you asking for attention. And instead of running away, you lean in. That's when spiritual maturity begins. Not when you feel perfectly calm, but when you can remain centered, even when your mind is loud. The world outside may still be chaotic, but your energy no longer mirrors it. You carry peace, even in motion. You make decisions from intuition, not impulse. You start to notice miracles in ordinary moments because your frequency finally matches your purpose. That's the power of reclaiming your silence. You don't escape reality. You transform it from the inside out. Because once you master your inner world, the outer world must realign. That's universal law. So whenever your mind becomes noisy, don't fight it. Observe it. Smile at it. Breathe. Say to yourself, I am not this noise. I am the stillness behind it. And feel how your energy shifts instantly. That's not imagination, that's energy mastery. And that's the beginning of true manifestation, because what you vibrate, you attract. And silence vibrates at the highest frequency of all, truth. At some point, after the storm of thoughts begins to calm, something remarkable happens. You start to hear a voice you had forgotten. It's not loud. It doesn't demand. It doesn't argue. It simply is. A calm, clear awareness that feels older than time and wiser than anything you've ever read. That is your inner voice, the voice of the soul. For years, it was buried under the noise of logic, fear, and comparison. But the moment you create space, the moment you allow silence to exist, that voice returns. It doesn't come from your mind. It rises from your energy field, from that deep center within you that always knew the way. This voice doesn't use fear as motivation. It uses truth. It doesn't shout you must. It whispers you can. When this awakening begins, you might feel an unfamiliar peace. Not the kind that depends on circumstances, but the kind that radiates from within. You realize that the answers you've been chasing through books, people, and external signs were always waiting in the quiet corners of your own consciousness. The soul doesn't speak in sentences, it speaks in feelings. A sudden knowing, a gentle pull toward a decision, an intuitive nudge that says, "This is right, that's not coincidence, that's divine guidance in action." Every great teacher of consciousness, from ancient mystics to modern mentors, has said the same thing in different words. The truth is already inside you. You don't need to be more spiritual, more disciplined, or more perfect to hear it. You just need to trust it. Trusting your inner voice is the ultimate act of faith, because it often asks you to move in directions that logic cannot explain. It may ask you to release people you love, to walk away from situations that no longer serve your light, to take leaps that feel uncertain but vibrate with truth. And your mind will resist, but your energy will know. The mind seeks safety. The soul seeks purpose. The mind says, stay where it's comfortable. The soul says, grow where you're called. When you begin listening to that inner frequency, life starts aligning in ways that seem magical. But it's not magic, it's resonance. Because when your inner world vibrates in clarity, the outer world reorganizes itself to match that clarity. That's the true meaning of manifestation, energy alignment between thought, emotion, and soul purpose. You'll notice signs appearing everywhere, numbers repeating, songs playing at the right moment, people entering your path with messages you needed to hear. The universe communicates through energy, and when your vibration rises, you start speaking its language fluently. But here's what few people tell you: the awakening of the inner voice is not always comfortable. At first, it can feel like losing control, because for the first time, you're not following your programming, but your purpose. And purpose doesn't always fit logic. It stretches you, it humbles you, it calls you to trust beyond what you can see. That's why so many people silence their intuition, not because they can't hear it, but because they fear what it asks them to become. Listening to your inner voice is a sacred responsibility. It's a commitment to authenticity over approval, truth over comfort, alignment over convenience. But the reward is freedom, real, luminous, soul-level freedom. Because once you taste what it feels like to live, guided by your inner knowing, you can never go back to living by noise. You start to make decisions not from fear of loss, but from faith in expansion. You stop chasing validation and start radiating conviction. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start affirming, if it's aligned, it can't fail. That's not arrogance, that's spiritual maturity. That's the frequency of self-trust. In that state, you no longer wait for perfect conditions to act. You become the condition that creates change. Because every aligned action amplifies your manifestation power. When you move from intuition instead of anxiety, your energy sends a clear message to the universe. I'm ready. And the universe responds instantly because it always mirrors your level of trust. This is where many people rediscover their higher self. That expanded consciousness that observes life from above the storm. It's not a separate being, it's the full version of who you are when you stop shrinking. When you operate from this awareness, decisions become lighter, creativity flows naturally, relationships harmonize, and even challenges feel purposeful. That's not fantasy, that's the science of vibration in motion. The soul is a master of timing. When you listen, you notice how every delay was actually protection, every ending was redirection, every failure was preparation. The puzzle begins to make sense, and with that understanding comes a peace no noise can steal. But this awakening isn't about escaping the human experience. It's about illuminating it. It's about walking through life with the awareness that there's a divine rhythm playing beneath every event. You begin to live more intentionally, speak more truthfully, love more deeply, because the voice of your soul doesn't just guide you, it transforms you. Sometimes that guidance will come through silence, sometimes through an emotion, sometimes through a sudden clarity that makes you stop mid-sentence and realize, I finally understand. Each time, that's the universe confirming, you're remembering who you are. The awakening of the inner voice is the moment you stop seeking light and realize you are it. You stop trying to find the path and understand that you are the path. You stop asking for signs and become the sign. Because true awakening isn't about reaching heaven, it's about bringing heaven into your daily vibration. It's living your spirituality not as an escape from life, but as the most authentic expression of it. And the key to that awakening? Stillness, presence, trust. The courage to listen when the world tells you to speak. The wisdom to pause when everyone else is running. The strength to follow your inner knowing even when no one understands it. That's how leaders of light are born. Not through noise, not through chaos, but through silence that reveals truth. Every transformation begins in chaos. Before the breakthrough comes the confusion. Before the light, the darkness. Before peace, the storm. That's how the universe reshapes energy, not by destroying who you are, but by breaking what no longer serves your vibration. And the moment you stop resisting that process, clarity starts to emerge like dawn after the longest night. For most of us, silence feels uncomfortable at first because it reveals what we've been avoiding. It shows the fears we hide behind productivity, the pain we bury under distractions, the truth we escape through noise. But once you learn to stay still, to breathe through the discomfort instead of running, the energy begins to shift. You realize that silence isn't here to punish you. It's here to purify you, to clear your frequency from everything that's not you, to peel away layers of noise, expectation, and conditioning until only your authentic vibration remains. That's energy healing in its purest form. Not something done to you, but something awakened within you. The moment you choose peace over reaction, the moment you stop fighting life and start aligning with it, your entire energetic field recalibrates, because your energy responds not to what you know, but to what you embody. You can repeat affirmations all day, but if your energy is chaotic, your results will be too. Clarity doesn't come from doing more. It comes from being more aligned. When silence becomes your teacher, you begin to sense energy differently. You start noticing when something feels light or heavy, true or false, expansive or contracting. That's your soul speaking through vibration. You stop analyzing and start feeling. And in that subtle shift, you regain your power. Your energy is like water. When it's agitated, it distorts every reflection. You can't see clearly. But when it becomes still, you see the truth beneath the surface. That's why silence is not absence. It's alignment. It clears your emotional waters so your higher guidance can shine through. The reason many people feel lost is because their energy is scattered. Pieces of themselves are stuck in the past, worrying about what they can't change, or trapped in the future, fearing what hasn't happened yet. Silence calls all those fragments back home. It says, come back to the now. This is where your power lives. And when your energy returns to the present, miracles begin to unfold. Because manifestation only happens in the now. The universe doesn't respond to who you were or who you plan to be. It responds to who you're being in this moment. So when your energy becomes centered, your frequency rises. Your vibration becomes coherent. And coherence is magnetic. You start attracting people, opportunities, and experiences that match your newfound clarity, not by chasing, but by resonating, not by effort, but by alignment. That's the secret most people miss about manifestation. It's not about wanting harder, it's about aligning deeper. You can't attract peace from chaos. You can't attract abundance from scarcity. You can't attract love while vibrating in fear. You must become the energy of what you desire. And silence is what allows you to remember that frequency. Every time you pause to breathe, to be still, to reconnect, you're telling the universe, I trust, I'm aligned, I'm ready. And the universe always responds to readiness. But clarity doesn't come all at once. It's revealed layer by layer, moment by moment. Each time you choose stillness over reaction, another veil falls. Each time you choose reflection over resistance, another truth emerges. Until one day you wake up lighter. Your thoughts are calmer, your intuition feels louder, and you realize this is who you were always meant to be. You see, the human mind complicates what the soul keeps simple. We chase endless answers, yet the universe keeps repeating one. Silence is the bridge. Between confusion and clarity, between chaos and peace, between who you were and who you're becoming. Every major shift in your energy field happens in silence first, before it becomes visible in the physical world. That's why so many spiritual awakenings feel like nothing is happening. In truth, everything is. It's just happening in frequencies your eyes can't see yet. The energy is reordering itself. Your vibration is leveling up. Your timeline is realigning. And when the shift completes, your external reality must change, because vibration dictates manifestation. There's a sacred law that says, as within, so without. Silence helps you rewrite the within. It turns emotional noise into awareness, fear into faith, resistance into flow. And that inner transformation echoes through every area of your life. When your energy is clear, your relationships evolve. You attract people who meet your peace, not your wounds. Your work becomes purpose-driven. Abundance flows not because you chase it, but because you're a match to it. Health improves, creativity expands, time feels slower, because you're finally living in energetic alignment. Clarity doesn't mean having all the answers. It means trusting that you're guided, even when you can't see the path ahead. It's the peace that comes from knowing that the universe never makes mistakes. It makes alignment. So the next time life feels chaotic, don't rush to fix it. Pause, breathe, listen. Ask yourself, what is this chaos trying to teach me? Because every storm in your life is not punishment, it's purification. It's energy shifting you from what's temporary to what's eternal. And when you face that storm with awareness, you stop drowning in it. You rise above it. You become the calm eye in the middle of the hurricane, untouched, unshaken, unwavering. That's what happens when silence transforms your energy. You stop reacting to life and start radiating through it. You don't beg the universe to change. You change your frequency, and the universe mirrors it back. Because in the end, clarity is not something you find, it's something you become. You become clear when you stop identifying with confusion. You become light when you stop holding on to what dims you. You become powerful when you realize you were never broken, just buried under noise. And all it took was silence. Not the kind that isolates, but the kind that integrates, the kind that turns pain into purpose and purpose into peace. Every spiritual journey ends where it began, inside you. But you're no longer the same. Because after walking through noise, doubt, and chaos, you've found something far more powerful than answers. You've found awareness. And with awareness comes a new sound, not outside, but within. The sound of peace, the rhythm of alignment, the vibration of a soul that finally remembers its own melody. That's the new sound of the soul. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't need to prove anything. It simply radiates truth. Effortlessly, silently, powerfully. When you reach this level of stillness, You realize something extraordinary. You don't need to chase energy anymore. You are energy. You don't need to search for power. You are power. You don't need to wait for miracles. You are the miracle, walking, breathing, glowing in human form. This is what happens when silence turns into mastery. You stop being a seeker and become a transmitter. You stop asking for guidance and become the channel through which divine guidance flows. Because silence doesn't take away your voice, it refines it. It transforms noise into wisdom, reaction into intention, confusion into creation. And suddenly you begin to understand why every challenge had to happen, why certain people left, why certain dreams took longer than you expected. Why life seemed to pause when you wanted to run, because every pause was preparation. Every silence was sacred training for this moment, the moment you could finally hold your peace no matter what. That's true strength. Not the strength that fights, but the strength that flows. Not the strength that controls, but the strength that trusts. You start moving differently, with grace, with presence, with awareness that everything you do now carries energy. Your words heal, your actions inspire, your silence transforms. Because you've learned something the world has forgotten. Silence is not weakness, it's alignment. Stillness is not inaction, it's precision. And peace is not passivity, it's power under control. When your soul vibrates in this frequency, you become magnetic to everything that resonates with truth. You attract people who feel like home. You step into opportunities that match your purpose. You release what doesn't align, not with pain, but with gratitude, because you finally understand that nothing leaves unless it's making space for something higher. That's the dance of energy alignment. The more silent your soul becomes, the louder your life speaks. You stop convincing and start embodying. You stop explaining your worth and start radiating it. And that's when you realize this is abundance, this is freedom, this is awakening, because abundance isn't measured in what you have, it's measured in how deeply you trust. Freedom isn't about control, it's about surrender with awareness. And awakening isn't an escape from the world, it's falling in love with it again from a higher vibration. The new sound of the soul is not silence without movement, it's harmony between being and doing. You act, but with alignment. You speak, but from truth. You create, but from peace. That's what it means to live consciously. When you reach this level of inner coherence, you no longer seek permission to shine. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. You realize that your vibration itself is a service, because every person who stands in their truth gives others permission to do the same. Your energy becomes contagious. You don't need to preach. Your frequency speaks for you. People feel it. They can't always explain it, but they feel it. They'll say, "There's something about your presence that calms me," or "Every time I talk to you, I feel lighter." That's not coincidence. That's resonance. That's your silent power at work. And that's the ultimate purpose of this entire journey, to become a living expression of divine stillness, moving through the world with a quiet confidence that everything is unfolding perfectly. Even when challenges arise, you no longer fall into panic. You pause, breathe, and ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because you know now that life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. And in that shift, you stop surviving and start co-creating. That's the highest state of manifestation. Not begging the universe for change, but becoming the vibration of change itself. Not praying for signs, but being the sign. Not trying to control destiny, but aligning so deeply that destiny aligns with you. The world around you may still be noisy, but your inner world has changed. You carry silence like a sacred flame, steady, unbothered, eternal. You listen more, react less, and see beyond appearances. Because now, your vision is energetic. You see potential where others see problems. You sense solutions before they appear. You walk not by sight, but by vibration. And that's when you realize the greatest sound in the universe isn't thunder or applause or even music. It's the sound of your soul vibrating in harmony with truth. It's the frequency of peace, echoing through every action, every choice, every breath. That's your new language. That's your new power. That's who you truly are. So whenever life gets loud again, and it will, return to your center. Return to that sacred stillness inside you. Because silence will always be your home, your compass, your power. The world may try to pull you back into noise, but you've already tasted what real alignment feels like. And once you've lived from that vibration, you can never unhear the song of your soul. So rise, not with noise, but with presence. Move, not with haste, but with intention. Speak, not to be heard, but to resonate. Because now you are not just living, you are leading energy. You are embodying consciousness. You are the calm in the storm, the light in the dark, the silence that speaks. And that silence, your silence, is the greatest power there is.